And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Hey, I'm Couch Tomato and I'm joined by
Hulk.
Welcome to Stuff for Movie Buffs. And today we're talking
Justice League.
All right, perfect. All right, before we get into all of that, guys, I actually do want to apologize. I'm a little under the weather today. It is the most wonderful time of the year. Unfortunately, it's the best time of the year for cough medicines and those type of companies. So I'm loaded up on cough drops right now. And just bear with me as if it sounds like I'm talking through my nose. I just really wanted to get this podcast out. All right, so this week we watched the DCEU film Justice League. For those that have been watching the franchise closely, this might be make or break for them. A lot of stuff happened behind the scenes, reshoots, bringing in Joss Whedon to add his 2 cents, etc., etc. The DCEU universe is already the subject of mixed criticism. So when you add on top of that a balloon budget for Justice League, and Warner Brother could decide it's more effective to stop trying to create a universe and focus solely on standalone films. So before we dive into our topics, asterisk on my part. So I wasn't aware that Joss Whedon was involved in the reshoots. Keep in mind, I said that I was going to stop paying attention to movie news as much as I did in the past. So I muted all the surrounding news around Thor Ragnarok, as well as Justice League and some other films as well. So there were some surprises that I saw when I saw Thor Ragnarok, that I was like, well, I didn't know that was going to be in the movie, only because I had saw one trailer before seeing the film. Same thing with this. I saw that Heroes trailer with Justice League, and that's all the feedback that I got from the movie. Didn't read any blogs about it. I was skipping notifications about it. I just saw one trailer for the film, and I probably watched the trailer like once and a half. So the stuff that was happening behind the scenes, didn't know anything about. So for those folks who were kind of like me, been hiding under a rock, Hulk, care to enlighten us?
Yeah, it was an unfortunate situation that happened with Zack Snyder and his family. His young daughter, I believe she was a teenage daughter, like she committed suicide. So then, Zack was like, he, told the production, told studio that, he needed time to spend with his family. So WB, instead of, shutting down or delaying the film, they just decided to bring on Joss Whedon to finish about 15 to 20% of the film. So they ended up having extensive reshoots, even to the point where they had an issue with Henry Cavill. He had like a mustache that he was doing with some film that he was doing. So then he couldn't have that shaved off. So then they had to have CGI come in and put that on his face. They had to reshoot a lot of scenes. A lot of scenes got cut. So like right now, it's like even now there was some leaks over the weekend of like deleted scenes and stuff. So for the most part, like with this movie, it's like there's a lot of reshoots. So a lot of people are not sure which one. You could tell which parts are Whedon and which parts are Zack. Yep. So
after hearing the news afterwards, I was like, okay, I could tell that's the reason this part was off. But the mustache thing was the only thing that I knew. That's because it was hard to hide from that. I mean, there were so many funny memes about it. Yeah. To where I'm like, what's going on? I originally, because I remember I wasn't reading the blogs, I was only looking at the memes. I was like, oh, they must be bringing, instead of giving Superman a shag, because the whole story about Doomsday when he comes back with the shag and the black suit. I'm like, oh, they're giving him a mustache, I guess, because I remember on the episode of Sopranos, people could grow facial hair when they're dead. So I was like, I guess, but then I found out about it after watching a comedic video from Mr. Sunday Movies, to where I'm like, okay, that's the only news that I heard. I didn't know about Zack, and definitely my condolences go out to their family. I'm not really sure how recent this happened, so I would imagine it probably happened like did it happen this year?
Yeah, like over this past year.
Now that's tough, man. Anytime a child passes before a parent, that's always tough. So definitely extend my prayers out to that family. And I know his wife was she produces most of his films that he directs, correct?
Yeah, Deborah Snyder.
Yeah, so it's tough for both of those guys. So let's get right into it. So first thing that you can't hide from on the internet is the site that should not be named. They posted a score, and they were very strategic about it this time, because that you talk about deleted scenes leaking. One thing that wasn't going to leak was this score before the movie was released. So Currently, it's at 39% from critics, 86% from the audience. Did the site that should not be named get the ratings right this time?
No. And the funny thing is, it's like they always prove to me why we should not mention their name every once in a while, and this was just like the perfect example. How are you gonna delay a score just for a show that you have? You know what I'm saying? Like, aren't you supposed to be just journalism? Like, aren't you supposed to just keep it straightforward and just report whatever it is that you're doing? Because that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you're not, like, it really boggled my mind. Like, how are you really going to delay a score just for a show? And
nah, that's a lot of money, man. And I mean, I don't know if that was the journalist that had anything to do with that. I think that was the 30% stake owner, Warner Brothers, saying, how about y'all delay the score or I'm pulling funding? Because this year has been the worst when it comes to cord cutting, and Time Warner is not playing any games right now. It's like, nope, I'm about to announce my fourth quarter earnings and you guys are messing me up. Delay this score ASAP. So I'm not blaming the journalist for that.
No, I'm not blaming the journalist, but I'm just saying, isn't like that's what the site represents. They represent journalism, and journalism. But the site, what makes it work? Go ahead.
The site is BS. Yeah, I'll tell you why it's BS. But you said what makes it work. I'm interested to hear why it works, because I think it's broken. But you enlighten me.
No. I'm saying what makes journalism work in like society is that it's supposed to be straightforward. But once it starts like focusing, like for instance, you look at Fox News, you look at CNN. I don't want to get too political, but to me, what people don't about them a lot of times is because they're
clarify with them, because you said Fox and CNN. Are you talking about both or one or the
other? Both, because I think sometimes you could just tell like they're a little biased, like especially with Fox, they'll lean a little more towards the right, and then CNN will lean a little bit more towards the left. Not as much as Fox, like with their bias, but you still see it sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's it hurts a lot of, it affects a lot of their audience. And I think with I'll
bleep it out, don't worry.
Please bleep it out. With that site, it's affecting, people are not believing it as it being straightforward. When you start doing things like delaying scores and things like that, like it's starting to affect people's perception of it. So that's like my point. Like I feel like as any organization that represents, journalists and journalism as a whole, you have to maintain that idea of being straightforward. Not to say that the name is being biased, but at the same time, when you have an aggregate, when you're doing your scores, make sure that it's in line and make sure that like it's online at a proper time, not regardless of your new show that you're trying to promote.
Let me ask you this. So I agree with you. I think the score this time around was absolutely wrong. Question, Hope. Would you say more people love DCEU movies or more people hate them? It's a polarizing topic.
Yeah, even with the criticism that it gets, I always pay attention to what the audience says, and if the audience, if more and more, like especially with one like that,
or just use your personal circle. If you talk to 10 of your friends, are you going to say, whether it's justified or not?
Yeah.
Would you say more of them like the DCEU movies, or there's more of an audience that hates them?
Like.
All right, so I'm actually on the other end of that. I think that more people hate DCEU, but feel free to debate with me. I just think it's one of those things to where I don't know if they have a legitimate reason for hating them. It's just cool to hate on the DCEU right now, right? So even before a movie comes out, with the news that hits the blogs, people will be like, same old Warner Brothers, up to no good. Where they're always a little bit more forgiving to Fox and Disney with their Marvel properties. So my main criticism for the site that should not be named is the critic requirements create an environment where the scores are skewed, since they recruit critics who are known for siding with popular opinions. And this is where I believe that more people hate than like the DCEU films, whether it's justified or not. To elaborate, to be a Rotten Tomato critic, you have to work for a top 100 magazine, a top 100 newspaper, they still make those, or a top 10 entertainment website, or have north of 20K subscribers to your vlog or blog. So keep in mind, a lot of top 100 magazines, top 100 newspapers, or top 10 entertainment websites are in the top 100 or top 10 because they generally agree with popular opinion. That's the same thing you brought up with Fox and CNN. They know their audience and they're going to side either far left or far right, depending on what their audience wants to hear. So you're almost giving the people what they want. So basically, I believe that the DCEU right now, whether people believe it or not, I think it's more accepted if you say, I hate those guys. I hate the DCEU movies. It's just something that's quote unquote cooler to say. So I think that the blogs, the vlogs, and those websites and newspapers, they're aware of that. So most of them aren't really giving an honest review in some cases. In some cases, it's actually sinister and they're just, getting you to click on a blog, getting you clickbait. So right now it's like, hey, the DCEU sucks. Click here to find out more. You know what I mean? So it's like, even sometimes you see where the titles don't really match up with the videos to where I'm like, all right, so technically I qualify for the site that should not be named. My numbers for my website make me eligible and I wouldn't dare apply because a lot of times my videos are sarcastic and you can't take them. You're not supposed to take them serious.
Yeah.
So however, when someone like me is compensated off of AdSense, ad revenue, or views, there's an agenda there. Like my goal when I make a video, yes, is to get more eyeballs on my content and I'm doing it to have a good time. Like I'm just not going to put something out there that I just totally don't agree with. I'm like, okay, I want to joke and I want to have fun with my audience. But, another underlying theme is I'm making money off of AdSense. So whenever that agenda is there, I can't ever trust a site like the one that should not be named, since their main requirements are centered around popularity and not education. Like I used to watch Siskel and Ebert growing up, and those guys were educated to talk on the subject. But whenever you start saying no, because this guy's popular enough to talk on the subject, that's what I gotta step out. I'm bowing out of the ring. Mm-hmm. So I say that to say this: if I talk to 10 people, will only 3.9 of them like the Justice League movie? No. If I talk to 10 people, I believe at least 6 of them will say it's a good movie. So come on, guys, I think you guys should lighten up. So that's my 2 cents. So Hulk, if I talk to those 6 people who liked the movie, here's what they'll say about the film. So right now, Hulk, let's talk about what you liked about Justice League.
All right. The first thing that comes to mind is the group dynamic. Like I really thought that worked in this film. Like the chemistry was like, it had a humor to it. It had even some, like with the arguments and stuff, like one scene that I don't want to spoil it too much, but one scene where like Wonder Woman is arguing with Batman. I thought that really worked well. Like I actually believe like their tension, like they really
very, very reminiscent to Iron Man versus Thor in Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see like where Whedon, like his influence was on the film, especially with that part. So I thought that really worked well for me.
And staying on the chemistry topic, only because you mentioned it, not only just the chemistry between the teammates, but their projection, it was more comedic this time. So it had humor. So everyone had a subplot as well, and it didn't pull away from the film too much. So Clark and Lois had their thing. Batman, can't forgive himself because of the events of Batman v Superman. I thought that was pretty deep. Wonder Woman, scared of leadership. Bruce called her out, and I thought that was just an awesome dynamic to her character arc. And Aquaman disowns his heritage, so I'm looking forward to see how he deals with that. Cyborg, hates his existence, and him and the way his dad acted and him getting used to, his current position was cool. Last but not least, Flash is a scaredy cat. I was low-key proud of Zack and those guys. Whoever put it in the script, I thought that was more of a realistic approach to a present-day superhero.
Yeah, I thought that really worked because as a human, even though you have powers, at the same time, you're not experiencing danger. You know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff is new to you. So the fact that he was scared, I thought that was pretty cool, like a cool aspect to think on. Like, yeah, just because you have powers doesn't necessarily mean you're ready to be a superhero. So I thought that was really cool, like putting that weakness with the Flash and then see him overcome it, throughout the whole film.
Yeah. And one thing I would say, my favorite part of this film, by far, the best part of this film was the runtime. Do you know how, off the top of your head, you probably might not know it, but how long was this movie?
About an hour and 50 minutes, like in some change.
That's
like it's definitely under 2 hours.
That's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Sweet spot. It's been a while since I've seen a movie without the number 2 prefacing the runtime. So I'm done with these 2-hour, 50-minute action movies. I just think people need to stop Michael Baying it up and stop giving us a 4-hour action movie. If this movie was long, I definitely don't feel like it was. I miss it when we actually had shorter comic book movies. The film didn't feel like it dragged because it was shorter. There was less room for stuff that had nothing to do with the plot. Less room for characters that had nothing to do with the plot. And I feel like that's something that Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and Man of Steel, I feel like that's something they dropped the ball on.
Yeah, definitely.
What else? Yeah, what else was a thumbs up for you on this movie?
I like the Amazons in this movie. Like the sequence with them fighting. I thought that was even like with Wonder Woman, that was one of my favorite parts of that movie. So the fact that they brought that again with this one, I thought that really worked well. Like just some of the stuff they did with the arrows and stuff. I also like the tunnel scene, like with Flash and Aquaman. You just really see the power showcased. I thought they did a good job of like 'cause sometimes it's hard to introduce new characters because you're not really familiar with what they can actually do. Mm-hmm. So I thought with like some of the scenes like where they got to showcase the Flash, showcase Aquaman, especially since they're new characters, like I felt it was good. Like, okay, oh snap, he could do that with the pitchfork, or how fast it really is the Flash. Like you get to see that showcase. So I thought those few scenes like with those action sequences really stood out to me.
The best action sequence in the movie I felt was with Clark. So I don't know if you're paying attention to it right now, but Hollywood is doing this thing, what I like to call hide the villain approach. Mm-hmm. And basically what that is, MCU started doing it too, by the way, but I'll explain it by using, I guess, a 90s reference. So back in the day and up to now, what Hollywood does is the generic plot points of a film are the good guys join forces and have to develop chemistry. Then after that, they find a menace and they lose. Excuse me, they fight a menace. They fight a menace and then they lose. After that, they regroup and decide to work as a team. The final act is a rematch between the good guys and then the menace that they lost to. So for a clear reference, try to look at the old Mighty Ducks movies. I think that was a great example to where they'll fight Iceland, then they'll lose. They'll fight, Varsity, then they'll lose. And then they'll fight, I forgot what the black team villains was on. It's not worth winning if you can't win big. On part 1, they fight them and then they lose. So that's the same thing that Avengers do. Like if you remember, they fought Loki on the helicarrier and lost. So they tend to do that a lot. So even though they fought Steppenwolf that second time, it was really interrupted with the Clark fight. So Clark is kind of like that second villain. And I think by doing that, it's much more easier to digest the villains because the way writers are in Hollywood is not just a comic book movie problem. It's a Hollywood problem. Villains suck. Like I haven't seen a villain that was great in a long time. So the more they talk, the lamer they become. So if you keep the villain quiet, there's so much of a better aura around him in the third act to where he still seems like a menace. So I noticed that they did this in Thor Ragnarok as well. Like to where they don't give you as much exposure to the villain as they should. So Superman, that fight was awesome. It just reminds you of why the Man of Steel is that deal. And I just definitely think that confirms that they should have done a sequel to Man of Steel before they even tackled Batman v Superman. So side note, did you notice that they had Infinity Stones in this movie?
Yeah, with the mother boxes.
Yeah, I thought the one thing I was worried about, I thought they were going to be chasing the mother boxes for like 3 more movies and they were setting it up like the Infinity Stones. So but when you do the math, they didn't do that, by the way. They were able to catch the 3 mother boxes in 2 hours, and it's for some reason it's taken the Avengers 17 movies to catch their 5 and counting. So something's definitely not adding up. So moving along, what were some elements that you hated in this movie?
CGI, it was terrible. Like that thing threw me off so many different times in this movie. From Henry Cavill's mustache thing, like you could just tell like okay, what's up with his face? And then Steppenwolf, like that villain, it was just awful. Like it just really threw me out because he looked so fake. Like I can understand, like, okay, you don't want to really do too much, like with as far as practical effects, but at the same time, that's what makes movies work. Sometimes it's like, I know you're on a tight budget. I know you're on a condensed schedule. I know it's like these movies are costing $200 million just to make, but at the same time, like, have some better CGI. Like, it was just terrible, especially with this movie.
I think Warner Brothers be acting stingy with the budget. I think they're like, nope, we're spending this amount on reshoots, this amount on marketing. Just use Microsoft Paint, Windows 95.
Yeah,
and, paint this baby up. So, in regards to Steppenwolf, what's worse, Steppenwolf or Doomsday?
Steppenwolf, definitely.
Yes, I mean, the thing with CGI, it wasn't even his mustache that bothered me the most with Clark.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where he's flying without a shirt and without his uniform, and man, he looked like Spider-Man from 2001 or Neo from Matrix 2. It just really looked like old-fashioned CGI. And then obviously the background, like, it just felt like the character seemed so out of place.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like somebody photoshopped them into a Thor Ragnarok scene, because it was just like the color scheme just felt like, yeah, this whole last sequence is a reshoot. This whole thing, it's like, it's nothing. It's 100% on a green screen. It's just uncomfortable to watch. Even if the CGI was on point, I don't think I would have been comfortable with that much CGI. So that's my take on it. What else did you hate about the film?
I didn't like the score. Like, I thought, especially with DCEU, I usually love like the scores and stuff, because they usually,
even with the callbacks to some of the classics.
Yeah, I like the nostalgia, but at the same time, give me something new. Give me something that will be memorable for me. It was just like, usually like get like a moment, like say what you want about Batman versus Superman. At least I had that moment where with Wonder Woman's entrance, I'll never forget that, with the "Is She With You" playing in the background. Or, you know what I'm saying, like the Man of Steel theme, like even that wasn't used, which I was like, I wanted that moment with like Superman returning, and then I hear the Man of Steel theme, but it was always just like,
they played the ship music, but they didn't play the the flying song. So I was like, I thought that was a missed opportunity also.
Yeah, so even with the scores, like that just really threw me off, and it was just like, that's something I always look forward to with like with the DCEU movies.
I'm surprised, because I'm becoming a DCEU apologist when this is your franchise. I know you you were always team DC, and I'm surprised that I'm having to sell this to you. So who stood out in this movie? So when we talk about standout characters, who are some of the characters that were most memorable? You mind if I go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have the same answer, but Wonder Woman is their star. Like, there's different versions of
without a doubt. Yeah,
bro, there's different versions of Justice League. But in this DCEU, I think they're setting her up to be the leader. Even Batman hints towards something about that. I'm just now realizing it, just because after Wonder Woman, I thought they were going to do... I thought this movie was going to be a warmer welcome from critics. So I was like, well, that's the movie where Batman's going to take over, because he had such a great portrayal in Batman v Superman. Say what you want about the movie, but Bruce and Batman was actually on point. So I was like, she's going to hand the keys back to him. Nope, she's still in the driver's seat. Like, if she's not top 5, it's hard. Let me not say top 5. I could say that if she's not top 10 of your favorite comic book characters right now, like on film, there's an issue.
Yeah,
because she awesome. She stole the show. Like, with Gods Among Us, she was like the best god. So you could either push and agree with that, or just chime in and give me some other characters that stood out.
Yeah, I'll push in with that a little bit. Like you said, and props to Gal Gadot. Like, she came a long way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just
shut everybody up.
Yeah, from, just coming from Fast and the Furious, and then having a lot of criticism with her casting, and the fact that she's now going to be like the leader of basically this franchise, like, in a way. So carrying the brunt of, because like basically going forward, this is the only thing that DCU to me has going, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's that's their moneymaker right now. They, like, Wonder Woman is everything for that franchise. So
let's hold our horses, because when's the last solo Batman standalone picture that they've released? It's Batman Lego movie, right?
Yeah.
Before that, what was it? Nothing. So
Yeah.
that's their moneymaker. I think they're just holding that bullet in the chamber. And there's issues around that I need you to help me clarify.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Wonder Woman is a standout character. Another person that stole the show, Flash. And it just makes me more hopeful that Fantastic Beasts may be the franchise that I'm hoping it's going to be. But Flash stole the show. Like, when you talk about Flash, I just think it's so much to do with people with his, it's so hard to follow X-Men's version of Flash, which is Quicksilver, which is like the best guy with fast sneakers right now. And then you also have the Avengers Age of Ultron version and of Quicksilver, which I think dropped the ball a little.
Yeah, big time.
So, just the comedic jokes, lovable characters is something that the kids will like. I think the same way people gravitated towards Wonder Woman, I think they're going to feel the same way about Flash if they choose to, opt in to do his movie.
Yeah, Ezra Miller, he's a talented actor. Like, he really is. Like you said, because I remember when they casted him for Fantastic Beasts, I was just like, oh, that was a smart casting. And then you can see, like, with WB, like, they really want to showcase him because they've been using him a lot in their films. So the fact that when they cast him as Flash, I was like, okay, I was behind it. And then now even more, like, I see now with what he's able to do. Like, he's good with comedic timing. And, like, if you look at the way the Flash character was really fleshed out in a way, because you see him still struggling with, being a hero, like I said earlier. And, like, just with little details, like, they bring forth with him. Like, it was just, like, he was funny and, like, how he uses his powers. And, we're saying, like, you really believe, like, he was just, like, a kid, just really just wanting to be on a team. Like, him playing, like, that Spider-Man Homecoming role, like I kind of liked it, like just him being that, like the kid of the group, which really fit well.
So now we mentioned some sequels and some stuff, but I think we're putting the cart before the horse. Let's talk about the status of the DCEU right now. So a lot of pressure on this movie. The slate that WB released is conditional. A lot of those conditions rest on the shoulders of this film. So if it's not successful, bye DCEU. And you guys just get 4 more Wonder Woman films. So however, Wonder Woman isn't the first name that comes to mind when you think of the Justice League. It's usually the third. When you think of Justice League, 2 characters come to mind. Who are they?
Batman and Superman.
You said Batman first. Let's stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
With Batman, what's the status of the relationship between Ben and WB? Is it a given that Ben is out now? Me personally, I really like him as Batman.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame if that's the case. So apparently I woke up to some news about him, about missing batarangs on the set, and they're charging him for that. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't hear that.
It started, like, I was really trying to look at the box office numbers, and apparently somebody asked Ben in the interview, did you take any props home? And he said some, batarangs fell off a truck, and Warner Brothers is charging him for that. So it looks like the relationship will soon run its course. So can you explain to me, since I've been under a rock for the last couple of months, how has it gotten this bad between Ben and Warner Brothers?
I think it's just been a lot of things just hasn't been clicking, because even like with the production, you can just see it like right now, like the production was a mess with this movie. And I think, saying, like, for someone like Ben Affleck, I think it's probably frustrating for him at times just to just sit back and just watch like all this behind the scenes stuff not working out. And you could just see it.
But he was tripping before that too, though.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, like, I brought this up because it was just like the most recent incident. Because even like with Batman v Superman, like, you see, like, okay, he was supposed to direct the Batman movie, but then all of a sudden he's not directing the Batman movie. They had to bring on Matt Reeves as far as that project is concerned. And, like, you could just see it, like, slowly but surely, like, just little by little, like, his just enthusiasm was just starting to wane. Because he had other stuff to deal with, like, in his personal life with, he had to go to rehab. He had, divorce with his wife. And I just think he, with everything that's happening with the studio and Zack Snyder, with all this different stuff, I just think, like, he's just like, you know what, maybe I could do, 1 or 2 more movies, But that's it. Like I really think like he's done. Like after I'll be shocked if he does like even just the one solo Batman movie. That's how much like where it's like I just don't see like his enthusiasm is really there. So
yeah, and you know, like when you start mentioning all that personal stuff, that's when I gotta realize, I gotta remember, that these people are real people. And after a divorce, and especially after his Oscar speech, you gotta imagine his ex-wife was instrumental in his career development. You know, so they always say behind a strong man is a strong woman or whatever. And she seems like she's the one that keeps him grounded. So if you lose that, some of the discipline is gone there. Yeah. So because even like I think because even like his last movie, Live by Night, that wasn't saying like this is a Ben Affleck directed movie. Say what you want about it. You can criticize a lot of his acting choices, but as a director, he's been top 5 in the in the game for like the past 10 years. So the fact that that one flopped too. Like, it was just like, like, it's just not, like, he just, I just don't think, like, he just has that enthusiasm, especially with, like, a comic book property where, like, they're just annoying him. Because even now, he started to get frustrated with interviews because he's on press, you know, doing stuff for Live by Night. And then every, you know, journalist is like, oh, what about Batman? What about this? How do you like wearing the cape? It's just like, yo, I'm not even on Batman right now. I'm trying to, you know, promote this movie. Some of that stuff, though. Some of that stuff is ego, though. I feel you, but, you know, Ben is one of those people. I've been championing his career since The Town. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whatever you're going through with the studio, I always prefer it when the studio starts running their mouth because it just makes the director, it puts him in a positive light to where it's like, look at this guy. You know, he's being a bigger person, where both of them look like babies right now. Like, I'm just like, oh, dude, this looks so sloppy. And as a studio, I'm thinking, whoa, Warner Brothers, like, how could you let this even leak out that you're charging somebody for a prop? Like, handle that stuff. Don't air your dirty laundry out like that. So this, I mean, yeah, like, so I'm very surprised at that part. I really love him as Batman. I'm trying to not get too attached now since I know it's only it's for a limited time now. So when you talk about should the DCEU continue, not forget about Batman, there's talks that they may pull this whole thing to a screeching halt. You've heard that, right?
Yeah, you always hear that, yeah.
Yeah, so in my opinion, this thing has levels. Right now, Marvel is a veteran, an all-star at that. So they've been in the league for like 10 years now, and they really only started hitting their stride 6 years ago. It's hard for people to imagine, but that's 4 years of those guys being number 2. Nolan used to rule the world before Avengers. So they were the clear number 2 until 2012. So with the DCEU, they're in year 5 right now. So they're still in their phase 1. So I can't keep comparing them to Marvel. It's an unfair comparison. I will, but I shouldn't. So I got to give them a chance to get their legs up under them. So I definitely think they should continue with the franchise. Right now, pricing is an issue for them because the one thing that I'm hearing, they're currently complaining because they may hit $93 million this opening weekend. And the numbers they were projecting were like either 110 or I think they were projecting 110, right? Since when? I've never heard of $93 million being a failure, ever. Have you ever heard that, Hope?
No.
How much did Doctor Strange make opening weekend? You don't remember. You'll have to look it up. But it was
70s. Like, it was like 70s. Yeah.
That's I'm like, you guys are setting yourself up for failure right now. Like, who does that? $93 million all of a sudden isn't good enough? Pricing is an issue for them. Let me tell you why. They still haven't released the budget for Justice League. It's that bad. But keep in mind, they had to pay for Whedon. They still had to pay Zack for doing what? You said 75 to 80% of the work, right?
Yep.
And they had to pay this ensemble cast. They had to pay for reshoots. They have to pay for marketing. It's expensive. They may not hit the numbers that they need to justify a sequel, but I think this number is not supposed to be hit. It's impossible right now because have you ever had a bad haircut before?
Too many times.
All right, too many times. Give me one example at least. When you have a bad haircut, typically you have to go pay another barber to fix it, correct?
Yeah.
You could either let it grow out or you like, nope, I got prom tomorrow. Got to go pay another barber to fix it. You know what I mean? So, but keep in mind with those expenses, you pay the barber that messed you up too. So I've had bad haircuts in the past too, and I never say to myself, this haircut, in order for me to get my return, I got to get twice as much compliments. Otherwise, it's just a lost cause. No, I just stopped going to the barber that messed me up. Like, once you mess me up once, I'm good. Bye. Don't push my tape back. Stop it. Stop it. So Warner Brothers is notorious for sticking with directors after they've dropped the ball. So I know Zack Snyder had some personal issues this time around, but prior to that, the fans haven't really gravitated towards his movies. I think it's safe to say that, even though they have a positive rating on from an audience perspective on the site that should not be named, most of the times, like, that's why I said I want to know what world you're living in, Hope, because I hear more bad things than good.
No,
about Zack, and
because I always say that when you ask me, with most people, I was just going by like your 6 and 10 analogy, like where if I ask 10 people, they're gonna say they like it. But if we're talking about geek culture, then yeah, you're right.
All right, so with that, I just feel like, so we're on the same page that where Zack Snyder has been more, he's caused more harm than good.
Yeah, he's done as far as he's done as far as the DCEU like is concerned. Like they're like there's just no way, there's no coming back from this. Like, it's over.
The problem is though, if he wouldn't have stepped down, I don't know if Warner Brothers would have cut the cord. So Warner Brothers is notorious for sticking with directors after they've dropped the ball. So you're going to lose money on this film, not because of the actors, not because of Joss, it's because of your past mistakes. However, own up to it and just have the right personnel in place next time. Like, Marvel cut bait. People don't remember this. Marvel cut bait with Jon Favreau after Iron Man 2. You know, they got Joss Whedon to direct Avengers. So it's crazy to think about it now because we all know the juggernaut that Avengers turned out to be. But that movie wouldn't have been the same. It probably could. We don't know. But I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that movie wouldn't have had the success that it garnered if Jon Favreau was directing the picture. Sometimes you need fresh blood. And I think sometimes it's okay to take a L if you learn from that L. Like, L stands for loss, but it also stands for learn. So it's like Warner Brothers keeps making the same mistakes over and over.
And that's what...
And I think Josh... Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what like bugged me, because it was just like, okay, with Batman vs. Superman, they had the same problems. They were just like, okay, you coming out with a 3-hour movie? Nope, we got to cut this scene out, cut this scene out, cut this scene out, cut this scene out, and cut this scene out. But then with Justice League, the same thing. Like, even with
Blu-ray extended edition.
Yeah, like they like over the weekend, there's been like so many leaks, like they of the Flash. They leaked like a deleted scene with him. They're leaking stuff with Willem Dafoe, like with the Aquaman stuff. Like, there's been so many different leaks. I'm like, dang. And then you could just tell with the trailer, like, there's just so many scenes that they cut, almost like Rogue One X type stuff, like where it's almost like you have a different movie. So it's just like, obviously the studio didn't have that much faith in Zack Snyder to where like they're taking out, you know, chunks of the movie, you know what I'm saying, to the point where it's like two different things. So it's just like, you see, like, the studio does not have faith in him. Like, you could just see that was evident from Batman v Superman. So the fact that you brought him back and then you still like didn't allow him to even like have that much creative control. Like, I know he left the project, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I really felt like with Joss Whedon, it was just like, okay, we want you to not just finish the movie, but switch it up a little bit. Like, and I think that's what they did.
Yeah, and I think with him, I think they get a lot. He has the rank because he's done it before. Like, he currently has that comic book movie record for opening weekend box office. But rumors are swirling that they need to cross 660 million to make their money back, or at least to be in the black. That's to probably break even. So I'm led to believe that they may have had a production cost is like close to the $350 million range, which will be, and that's not even talking about marketing, bro. Because whenever marketing usually isn't part of that production budget that you see. So when it says 250, it's 350, right? So it's like, and they probably spent $450 million on this. I'm like, probably. Bro, I'm just like, that's a L, bro. That's a bad haircut. Just don't go to that barber anymore. Like, you're not getting that money back. And the same thing with me. Like, if somebody messes up my haircut, I'm not going to say, man, I had to, instead of me paying one barber, I had to pay two barbers this time. I'm never getting a haircut again. Nope. I own the property. I have to continue to make money off of it. I'm going to make another movie. However, this time I'm going to learn from my mistake. Stop going back to that same barber. Like your forehead, you could fit 8 fingers on your forehead right now. By definition, that's an 8 head. Like, stop going to that same barber. Like, Warner Brothers, it's like, I have no hope for Hollywood because I'm like, I always used to hear stories like dumb execs, and I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. But now I'm just like, these people are just email bots. They just click yes, accept, send, receive without knowing what they're clicking. And they're just agreeing to decisions. Happens a lot in corporate culture too. Like, I've been part of that culture where I'm like, he didn't read my email. He just clicked accept. I don't think he's reading my emails. You know, so I'm thinking the same thing is going on with Warner Brothers. And the fact that so much stuff is leaking out, some of that is from the people involved in production. Yeah. So it's a kingdom divided.
Because like you could just,
they need to change.
Yeah,
the
you could just
there.
tell. Like the Flash scene is like, when I tell you it's not even close to being done. Like there's just like so many, you know, you could just tell like this CGI stuff is just not done. It's not finished. So I'm just like, why is this leaking now? And it's just, you could tell like people are just, they're trying to defend themselves like with the oncoming criticism that's going to come. Because even like,
yeah, these are people's jobs.
Yeah.
So if you, I'm one of the few folks that actually reads, you know, the names and stuff on the, you know, on the ending credits before the end credit scene comes up, because you have nothing to do now but read. And I'm like, these people will work on a project for 2 years, and that's going to be their income for the next 5 years. So it's like, whenever you put on your resume, I worked on Batman v Superman, I worked on Justice League. Oh no, like you did the CGI for that movie? I'm straight. I'm moving. I'm using a company out in Georgia. I'm using a company out in Florida. No. It wasn't my mistake. Like, here's my references. If you talk to Joss, he'll let you know that I never really got a chance to. Oh, so you never worked on a project then? Oh, great. I'm hiring the. Yeah, like a lot of that's the reason you see stuff leak, is because people are trying to defend themselves. Like you said. So I definitely think they should continue this universe. I think the fans will support you. It's just, you have to stop making the same mistakes. Like, how many you watched Incredible Hulk, right?
Yeah.
It's considered one of the weaker Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Incredible Hulk. I don't agree with Incredible Hulk being on this list. That's the only reason I'm bringing up the other two. They're considered, like, for most, the worst performing films or the worst made films in the DCEU.
Oh, MCU.
Excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. So after Thor the Dark World, they followed up with Thor Ragnarok. They fixed a lot of their issues. They listened to the, you know, they learned from their mistakes. After Incredible Hulk, they just stopped making movies, because it's like, nope, he's better as a supporting character. And you see that in Avengers, and you see that in Thor Ragnarok. You see that in Age of Ultron. It's like Hulk makes them money when he's supporting, right? And in Iron Man 3, because they pay Tony so much, Robert Downey Jr. so much, they're like, you know what, he's better as a supporting character. We save money, because it's not like his films are going to break a record that it'll justify his pay scale. Let's just put him in as a supporting character. Spider-Man Homecoming, Age of Ultron, they learn from their mistakes. The problem with the DCEU is they continue to make Incredible Hulks. They continue to make Iron Man 3s, and they continue to make Thor the Dark Worlds. Right now they would beg to make those movies, but I'm you know, talking in parables now, I guess. It's to where it's like they continue to make the same mistake over and over again. Like, if they could correct that, or if they could at least put their egos to the side and really take a look in the mirror and say, look, Wonder Woman is something that works. Flash is something that works. Let's focus on the characters that work. You know, so yeah, like I definitely think we'll see more movies. I honestly think that they're leaking this news about possibly discontinuing the DCEU just to scare fans, to get you guys to pay for the movie 6-8 times. I'm not doing that, but I'll definitely see this movie again when it's on Blu-ray. But let's talk about this movie. We talked about how the site that should not be named probably got it wrong. So when we look at, I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, they are learning from their mistakes to some degree. Because I think this movie was better than I expected. Even with all that backroom chaos that I wasn't aware of, I liked it. But the question is, where does it rank? And I'm not going to rank this against the DCEU. If my children get bad grades on their report card, they better not try to compare their marks with their siblings. I want to hear what your classmates got. So how did you fare against your peers? So here are the comic book movies of 2017. How does Justice League stack up against those? And Inhumans doesn't count, by the way. So first up, Batman Lego movie.
Oh, it's better than Batman Lego.
Why?
No, it was just more, this one was just more entertaining. Batman Lego was just kind of forgetful in a way. And it was just like...
Are you stealing my words right now?
Like, which is shocking.
And, there's rumors. I don't know if you caught this rumor, but Will Arnett has been the subject of Batman recast rumors. So they believe that it's a great idea to bring in the Lego Batman. Yeah, they think it'll appeal to a younger audience.
I heard the Jake Gyllenhaal one. That one just came out like over the weekend. Even like...
Nah, the lie detector test determined that was a lie. I'm just playing with you.
Oh, okay.
But I heard I heard Jake too. So I do agree with you. Justice League is better. Batman Lego movie is good, but it's not iconic as the Lego movie was. Nah. And there's not much defining moments. And you talk about how forgettable it is. I agree. I think that this film has more defining moments in it to where I'll remember it 6 months down the road, a year down the road. So I'll give Justice League the edge. So Logan's
better. That's clear to me. I don't know about you, but Logan was better.
I remember I didn't see Logan in theaters. It was one of those films I wasn't anxious to see, so I waited for Blu-ray. But I'll give the edge to Logan. I think Logan's a good movie. I would say some folks act like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think the movie started great, but in the middle portion, namely the farm scenes, there it drags a little. But I'll definitely give the edge to Logan because, once again, it had more defining moments in Logan. Like there's like 6 parts I could point to that movie where I'm like, I'm going to remember that for a long time. I'm going to remember that for a long time. Definitely going to remember that part, to where I think both of these films are good, but however, Logan, I believe is superior. Guardians of the Galaxy. So now you're doing Marvel versus DCEU right now.
Mm-hmm. I'll give that as a Justice League. Because like you said,
I didn't know which way you were going to go.
Nah, because like you said, like with, I don't know. It's like one thing I'm starting to learn is just like I have to judge movies not necessarily after I watch it. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. Like when it's fresh in my mind, like okay, I could give certain more details, but at the same time, movies to me, like I want to see how it ages. And I think for Guardians,
didn't I tell you that?
Yeah.
I did not tell you that about. I told you that about Justice League. I told you that about Suicide Squad. I told you that about Guardians. I said, I don't think you guys are going to remember this. It's prisoner of the moment type.
Yeah, thing. Like it hasn't aged well. Like it just hasn't. And I know it's only been a couple of months, but that's the point. Like it's supposed to, stay with me for a while.
I think my benefit is I'm on a listserv, a group chat with my frat brothers, and we all talk about movies. So whenever I leave a theater, I usually want to add my 2 cents to, hey guys, that's what I thought. If it takes me a while to come up with some thoughts, I'm like, nothing happened in the movie. Whoa, I don't remember anything that happened in the movie that I could share with these guys. So it's not that good. Guardians was one of those movies. Everybody was saying it was great. I'm like, it's not that great, bro. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but it's not even that good. I don't think I'm going to watch that movie again. Like I'll probably watch it once to do a video on it, but probably not watching it after that. So I agree with you there. Justice League is a better movie. Wonder Woman.
I'll give Wonder Woman the edge because I was watching Justice League and I was just like, damn, she's really good. Like I love Gal Gadot. Like she's my favorite character out of the DCEU, and it just made me want to watch Wonder Woman again. So like to me, it's clear to me, like with what Patty Jenkins did, like that was definitely one of my favorite movies of the summer. So Wonder Woman gets the edge.
So Wonder Woman made the most money. So if you want to look at it from a fiscal standpoint, it's fiscally better. Wonder Woman set up the character the best, so it's professionally better. Wonder Woman looks better in a skirt, so she's aesthetically better. She shut people up. And I love when people, because people, you forget that these people are human beings.
Exactly.
Like if I don't like your work, I'm not going to attack you personally. And some of the criticism towards her, I thought she was too thin to play the role also, but I'm like, well, you can lift weights. But at the end of the day, I want to see how she looks in costume. I need to see it. Because I've seen people who just always surprise me. So I'm like, all right, I just got to see it. But she shut critics up. And I'm just really proud of her for doing that. And agree. Wonder Woman is one of the best comic book movies of the year, so it's definitely better than Justice League. Moving on to Spider-Man Homecoming. Once again, Marvel versus DC. Who gets the nod?
Damn, this is tough.
Not that tough for me.
It's like right now I'm gonna say Justice League, even though like Spider-Man.
Are you sure? Are you serious right now?
Spider-Man, it's not. It's.
Are you serious? I'm just giving you a hard time. I actually agree with you.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let you go out on that limb by yourself, man. I agree. Justice League is better in my opinion. Spider-Man Homecoming is good, but you can't watch that movie a second time. Nothing happens. I'm just like, okay, this isn't really that good. The second viewing, the third viewing, the fourth viewing, because it's not a lot of action that happens in that movie. And it's also a classic example of critics overreacting and rating this movie a 92%. Because once again, when I talk to 10 people, 7 of them say they like the film. I'll talk to 3 people and say they hate it. And that's why I was like, I always think that movie right there, it's like, well, if you respect the character I respect what they did from a production standpoint, being able to tell that story without having to go through the traditional origin format. I'm like, that's creative. I ain't never seen that before on introducing a new character that way. So kudos for them to doing that. But I respect the movie for what it represents. You do not have to follow that generic formula. However, the movie itself, I'm like, you know what? I understand why this film isn't that good to a lot of people. I tried to force feed it to my children. I don't even think a young audience likes it as much. So same thing with Justice League. I don't know if a young audience is going to gravitate towards it like I did. So I agree with you. I put Justice League.
Yeah, and I think that's what affected
Spider-Man Homecoming. Still,
I think
still
that's
solid movies, by the way.
Justice League numbers too. Like, I don't think a lot of families showed up. I think a lot of older kids, college and high school, but not a lot of families. I don't think really showed up.
I feel you, but Thor Ragnarok came out last week.
That too.
Yeah, so when you bring up the college stuff, I'm like, you come out the week after Thor Ragnarok, or was it 2 weeks after?
2 weeks.
All right, 2 weeks after. Families just didn't fall off the face of the earth. In actuality, families will rush to the theater regardless of what happens. But I don't know if it needs to be a family per se that goes to see Batman v Superman. It made $93 million. I think there's only been 5 movies that have crossed over $100 million this year. With all the bad stuff, press that's been going around, like, you got to realize some people aren't going to support Ben, because some people are calling him a hypocrite for the harassment stuff. His interviews have been very uncomfortable. So from a marketing standpoint, you're alienating, your target marketing group, because it's like when people watch it, I don't know if they feel compelled to watch the movie because Ben keeps getting called out. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, people, it's not $93 million, bro. That's a success to me. They need to find a different way to complain.
Yeah.
So, but Spider-Man Homecoming, we agree. Thor Ragnarok, however you, but go ahead.
I think Thor. I'll give Thor the edge on this one.
Same thing. Thor. It's not even a fair comparison. Marvel is in phase 3 and it's business as usual with a character that they've been in business with since phase 1. So they don't have to set up backstory, just press play. So I agree with you. Thor gets the edge. I actually think Thor may be the best movie of the year from comic book standpoint. Maybe Wonder Woman second, and you put Justice League third. I think that's nice company. Like, it's amazing how some people, it's a blessing, but they look at it as a curse. And Warner Brothers is one of those companies. I'm like, y'all lucky this wasn't as bad as it could have been. So really anxious to hear what you guys think. Go ahead and rank those movies in the comment section, or hit us up on Facebook, rank it there. FYI, I know we're doing an upcoming video and we want you guys to vote. It's Star Wars related, so go to the Facebook page and vote on those 2 Star Wars picks. After that, guys, it's definitely about that time. Thanks for joining us today. Before you leave, if you like what you heard, share it with a friend on Apple Podcasts or wherever you go for your podcast. Don't let this be the last time we hear from you or you hear from us. Support the show by visiting our Patreon at www.patreon.com/couchtomatofilms. Join us next week and check the show notes on where to find us weekly. It's Couch Tomato Films on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Couch Tomato Film on Twitter. Other than that, peace.